Speaking of dogs
There you
and
go.
ducks, Big Ten got a little bigger. Apparently, people in the
Nice.
Pac-12 didn't like the media deal that they were put in front of them, which sounds like an Apple streaming TV deal. So let's start there. Are you surprised that this happened, Steve, or was this just delaying the inevitable, now speeding up the inevitable?
It was delaying the inevitable, now speeding up the inevitable. It
That's
should
what.
have been the two LA schools were not enough ever. They were not the right. They weren't Big Ten school. I mean, they were schools for the media markets. They are not college football schools. Look, I'd rather go to Seattle. I'd rather go to Oregon. Like those are college football trips. Those are going to be fun. I mean, I can't wait to see when they're on the schedule because those are going to be trips. I don't know that anything would encourage me to go to LA to see a college football game, other than the bowl game that I've already seen there. So, no, this was inevitable. This is also the fault of. No, this isn't the fault of. This is proof that folks on the West Coast don't watch sports, right? Like LA may be a good media market for the Big Ten, but people aren't watching those games. No, that's why their media deal wasn't worth anything. Like the linear networks knew nobody's going to watch these games. Who's going to watch Washington and Wazoo? Like, not to belittle them, but they're not going to get the numbers that Ohio State and Michigan are going to get. So their deal wasn't worth it for what they were getting, or they were getting what they were worth. They're worth more to the Big Ten, and it's good for them. And they probably need. I can't, get big enough to have two divisions, and the Big Ten goes back to East and West. It's still tough on Penn State, but no, I think this is very good for the Big Ten. I think it's good for fans. I know you think
I don't.
otherwise. It's places I want to go. It's new places to see. But it's all TV money, right? I mean, it's not you aren't us, the fans aren't driving it. It's the TV networks getting content.
Yeah, I am not a in my head. It makes more sense that it's Oregon and Washington joined the Big Ten just from the aspect of their athletics and slash the schools, because I think there is some value to being a Big Ten school in terms of the degree that you hold. But I think I don't know. I'm not a fan of it because it is going to end up hurting people like me and you that enjoy going to games. And I think everybody's like, well, now you get Washington and playing Penn State, or Washington playing Ohio State, or you get the couple good matchups that you kind of get out of this. But what about Washington and Rutgers? Like, who's going to be watching that? Or Oregon and Rutgers at 10:30 at night? Like, who is going to be turning that on? And to me, from the football standpoint, sure, like you can live with it, but then once you expand out to the other Olympic sports, basketball, baseball, really any of the main Olympic sports that you might tune into, volleyball, although volleyball, it probably does help because it makes that conference the strongest, best conference in the country. But I feel for those athletes that are now going to have to take a bus to Harrisburg, then take the Harrisburg to wherever flight all the way out to Seattle, or all the way out to Oregon. And I think also, you said you will make a trip. Do you think you'll make the trip twice? Like I don't think we will make the trip twice. We will go once and that's it, because
once each place. Right. Yeah. Once each place.
And I wonder, I don't have the Alumni Association list on my screen or anything like that, but I would be interested to hear from somebody in the alumni department of, here's how many Penn Staters live in here and how many of those we think will actually go to the game.
Yeah, but your ticket allotment on a road game is what, 2,500 tickets, maybe 5,000?
Yeah, but I've been to 100 and some Penn State football games in the last decade. And of those away games, so that maybe call it 50 games, I've bought through the university once, maybe twice. I think most people go off StubHub. So I don't know.
I think they'll sell their first trips out there easily.
Sure.
It'll be the second ones, and we'll see.
Yeah.
And then in the other sports, I do feel for them. Although, and then at the same time, I feel there's a solution that the egos of those people in those sports will not allow them to have happen, right? So before you and before me even, women's sports had these things like and it was when women's sports weren't as legitimate, they had play days, right? 4 schools would go to Maryland and play 3 games at a time, right? Like you'd all go to one location to limit the travel, or I see your face, right? And those other sports are going to say, well, but that would be a solution. Hey, we all come to Nebraska and we play a round robin of series games over the weekend. Everybody gets 2 or 3 games in the sports that allows for, right? Or you have a travel partner and you go out west. Like, I think there are solutions to this that are okay-ish, but that will not play in the ego world and the Title IX world and the, hey, why do we have to be second-class citizens world that has changed in recent years, because they were second-class citizens for years, and it's changed a little bit better now, and they're getting more, Penn State, Pat Kraft, we're going to invest in our programs, we're going to do whatever. This is the exact opposite of that, unless you're willing to really spend to send them there, right? So there's going to be a lot of interesting conversations there and challenges for those sports going forward because of this, right? Because the decision wasn't made about them, not at all.
Yeah.
But the football money supports them. So that's
Sure.
the challenge, right? Like, you're going to smile and take the money or bitch, right? So,
But I don't know. Like, I feel like we're going to hit a point where, like, I guess, like, we have to stop looking at athletic departments as athletic departments of largely nonprofit universities or state universities and start looking at them as universities that really have this side business, I guess, would be the best way of, and maybe I just worry about that because I think you're going to lose. I think you're going to, what I'm picturing, Penn State will now play essentially, if we count the 4 schools out west, we count Wisconsin, Ohio State, Michigan, they will play probably at least 2 of those at home per season now, maybe give or take. Now we're driving up ticket prices, and like fans are what make the college experience the college experience, and we're driving them out. And to me, I just like that is why I watch college football, why I'm so engaged in college football, is because I feel a part of it. And the second that we start to go to diet NFL or NFL junior, we're going to lose that. And so,
wow, who do you sound like all of a sudden?
Shut up.
I got my pro team. I don't need it. Well, and if it weren't a business, right? I mean, we just talked to 2 public address announcers that they've hired to make their product better. We've talked about them selling beer to make their product more profitable. It has been a product to the folks at Penn State and other places. Penn State may be shorter than some other places, but the good places, it's been a product for the past decade if they've been doing it right. Maybe 5 years for a lot of places, right?
Right.
So that train's already left. They're already viewing themselves as that because they're hiring commissioners who are TV executives. They're hiring ADs who with sports management backgrounds. This isn't roll out the football or roll out the basketball and play just because we're rooting for the laundry anymore. And I think it's hypocritical of those folks, especially. I don't think it's hypocritical of fans that complain, but I think it's hypocritical of the folks who are part of the sports industrial complex to then complain that, oh, our student athletes are going to have to travel. Well, stop upping the ante. Stop trying to do whatever. I mean, this is self-imposed, and I have very little empathy for them.
That's 100%. I agree with that one 100%. And I think we are only headed closer to a union forming of student athletes. I think it's going to happen. Maybe not within the next 5 years, but I think in a decade, I think you're going to have a union, because you're going to have to. You can't strap, women's field hockey players and send them across the country. Well, every weekend now, because that's essentially what some of those schools out west are going to do. If the news that we were joking about before, but there is a little bit of news related to Cal and Stanford, they might be joining the ACC, which makes no sense given that the ACC is the Atlantic Coastal Conference. But we'll get to that argument another day. But those are at least Stanford is the number 1 athletic department in the country in terms of the Olympians that they produce. UCLA is up there in the number of Olympians that they produce. USC is up there, and you're going to start schlepping them commercial all the way over to insert Miami or insert Clemson, South Carolina. Like, it's just athletes are going to have to start sticking up for their rights, and it's coming. It's coming.
Right. And if they do it, there's a couple possible outcomes. Football becomes separate. right?
I think that's the
And,
way to go.
and then you just do the rest of the athletic stuff, or it's the model of, hey, there's going to be 1 week, there's going to be 4 weekends. We're going to compete this month. Every month we're going to compete. One weekend's going to be in Oregon. One weekend's going to be in Nebraska. One weekend's going to be in Happy Valley. One weekend's going to be in Maryland, right? And everybody goes there and you get in, and the student athletes, players, depending on the sport, because I think football are players. I'm not going to go student athlete with football players anymore, have done this in high school summer leagues, AAU stuff, travel field hockey. They've done this. They've gone and played tournaments in multiple places and multiple games over the same weekend. So it's not a different model for the sport. It's a different model for college athletics. So they'll either do that, or they'll find a way to raise more money in the sports industrial complex to make it possible for them to travel. And again, with Zoom anymore and classes that are remote, I don't know that the missed class time has to be such a big issue, because we've solved that the past couple of years. I mean, I know we're going back the other way now, but I don't think that's a huge thing. It's going to be fun to watch, though. I mean, see how it plays out.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just not excited. I'm not excited. I'm really not.
The athletes have to stand up for their rights. Would you stand up for the fans' rights and not go to Oregon on the first trip?
Shut up. I don't like that question.
Sorry.
No, but all right. What I'm interested in is, I've got a couple look. I am of the weird 1% that literally spends all of their time and figuring out how they could get all of their money to cover the cost to go to football games in the fall, right? And then I've got a couple friends that are probably maybe 2 to 3 tiers lower, that they will go to Maryland and then they will say, okay, let me pick one other game that I'm going to go to, whether it's this season Ohio State, Michigan State. They'll pick a game or two. I think you're going to see less people at least, especially the second time around, you're going to see less people of that pool of people going to Seattle or going to Oregon. I will say I am excited to go to Seattle. Like I've not been to Seattle yet, and I am excited to see Portland / Eugene, just because I've heard it's beautiful. But I don't know. It's not
like hopping in the car and driving to Pitt every other year, or driving to West Virginia.
Right,
or going
exactly.
To no, there'll be less people the second time, no doubt about it.
Yeah,
or maybe the third time, because the second time people will get tickets that didn't get them the first time.
Yeah, well, I think that's the other thing. I've had an issue with Adam Bittner of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, and I had a conversation on Twitter about this. But
conversation?
Yeah, it's a conversation. Every conversation with Biddy is a conversation.
Okay.
He brought up the regional rivalries thing. That thing has really annoyed me about all of this. It was like, I think the Washington AD was like, yeah, we stay committed to keeping the Wazoo, the Apple Cup going. And then same thing with the Civil War in Oregon. No, you're not like that. You made this move because you don't want to play those rivalries. You want to go play and get in the bigger spotlight, and those games are going to give you a bigger spotlight. And
if they keep playing those games, I'd be tempted to go to one of those games as opposed to a UMass homecoming game at Penn State, just to watch it.
It is funny. It's funny you say that, because we've been discussing this. So we are Anna's aunt and uncle live in Oviedo, Florida. They are UCF season ticket holders. Their whole family is UCF season ticket holders, and we have actually joked around about that. But there's a game. A lot of them went to JMU, and so JMU is going to play UCF in the future. We might go to that game in a few years, because you do want to go see other things. But I don't know. For me, average fan that's going to watch it on TV, I'm still going to tune into Texas versus insert other SEC team over the Apple Cup or whatever it may be, just because, unless for whatever reason Washington State is the number 1, 2 top 10
Well, I know
team.
it goes back to the first thing we talked about. I mean, Pac-12 schools, whether it's the East Coast bias or lack of attention, right? Those rivalries just haven't meant as much to the mainstream media. I mean, Wazoo's known most in college football for the flag on game day.
100%. Yeah, 100%.
I mean, no shot at them. Sorry, that was a shot at them. But I mean, that's what most college football fans know them more about that and Ben Ryan Leaf than anything else about Washington State.
I was gonna sit here and say like how many Cal players can I name, but I can name two: Marshawn Lynch and Aaron Rodgers. But after that, I can't name that many.
And that's in your era, and in my era, more people know Cal for the band game.
Right.
I mean, you know,
Sorry, Cal. Hey, but
Sorry.
you know what?
welcome to the
Berkeley,
ACC.
good degree at Berkeley. So go get your good degree. All right. Anything else you want to pummel?
No,
realize
we beat up. No, I'm done. That's the
good?
limit. I'm beating up on
You good?
people. I'm good.
All
Yeah.
right.